Great day, great people. Let's get right into business. You know, the situation that happened in Georgia last week. We covered it on Sibo and Snapper, and I definitely had to cover it on my channel, and we'll also be looking at it from another angle on my kids' youth channel. I want to just tap in and give a holistic picture of Colt Gray and where the ball was dropped from his home situation, the authorities, and I really don't think the school environment had enough time to establish a clear understanding of who this kid was prior to this. But let's get into these videos, and we're going to talk about them a little bit in the middle, but mostly at the end, because this is a serious situation that has invoked me to kind of do something a little different when it comes to my content with youth. So let's get into this video. So this, you may already know this information. Like I said, this happened last week, but I had to process this. I was so sad. I really was. I just was so sad because I truly have a strong passion to work with kids and youth. This is my area when I work and got my master's degree in blah, 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 blah. I have told you all my story. And I have a program for youth with, academic deficits and behavior challenges, but not limited to those. It's also primarily for students that have low self-esteem, that want to enhance their skill sets in character building, social emotional development, relationship building, and just learning how to love themselves so they can love other people. So let's listen.
The arrest of Colin Gray comes after the Fox 5 I-team poured through public records today, trying to learn more about this father and his son.
Late today, the I-team obtained a recording of a sheriff's office interview of both Grays, recorded after the FBI received a tip last year about a threat to shoot up a school.
Do you have weapons in the house?
I do.
Are they accessible to him?
They are. I mean, there's nothing loaded, but they are down.
Okay.
We do a lot of shooting. We do a lot of deer hunting. He shot his first deer this year. Like, I don't know. I don't know anything about him saying like that, and I'm gonna be mad as hell if he did.
So this is where the dad clearly was clueless about the totality of this situation right here.
And all the guns will go away, and they won't be accessible to him. I'm trying to be honest with you. I'm trying to teach him about firearms and safety and how to do it all and get him interested in the outdoors.
Now, that's just a portion of the Jackson County Sheriff's Office interview.
Fox 5 I-team reporter Johnny Edwards says it's part of an emerging picture of a troubled family and some missed warning signs.
Exactly.
From what we're learning, Colt Gray's home life was fraught with problems. Police reports and court records concerning his parents, Colin and Marcy Gray, reveal a broken family. Colt living with his father, his two younger siblings living with their mother. Marcy Gray was arrested late last year for scratching her husband's truck. Then, when they arrested her, police say they found her with methamphetamines, fentanyl, and a glass pipe. She was sentenced to 46 days in jail. Also last year, Colt Gray and his father received a visit from Jackson County Sheriff's investigators. They were looking into an FBI tip. Apparently, someone on a gaming app had threatened to shoot up a middle school. They believed Colt may have been involved. According to incident reports, the then 13-year-old told investigators he didn't make those threats. Here's a sheriff's investigator talking to Colt Gray.
I promise I will never say something like that.
So you haven't used Discord in a few months?
Oh, no.
And you're saying you didn't say anything like that?
No, the only thing I have is TikTok, but I just go around there and watch videos.
Colt's father told police he did have guns in the house. He said they were accessible but not loaded. He said he and his son would go hunting and shooting together. He said he wanted his son away from video games and into the outdoors. Colt even shot his first deer that year. Colin Gray also told police his son had problems at school, including being picked on.
I've been up to school, like, I'm on first name. I just was up there 3 days ago for his finals, talking to the principal, like, look, we talk about it quite a bit. All the school shootings, things that happen.
Well, what school was this? Because according to several news stories and locations and some of the kids who went to school with him, and particularly class, said that he'd only been at the school for 2 weeks and he hadn't even been there. That was his second day coming to class. So he was new to the school. But what school was the dad going to and having these conversations with the principals? Was it this school here? Did he start going? He was getting bullied and he stopped? Or was this another school he came from and this was the new school?
And
Yeah, scary.
hey, are you getting picked on at school? He is. He's getting picked on at school, and is everything okay? That's why I keep going up there.
After that talk, police left. They weren't able to substantiate the tip. Here's where a breakdown may have occurred. The Jackson County Sheriff tells us she believes her department alerted Jackson County schools, telling them keep monitoring Colt Gray. In an email obtained by the I-Team, a sheriff's captain tells the FBI, we have made area schools aware and will monitor this subject. But by that point, Colt Gray had already finished 8th grade at Jefferson Middle School. By 9th grade, he and his father had moved to a different county.
Okay,
and
there
that's
you go.
where he started at Appalachia High School in Barrow. This is what we're still trying to figure out, if that alert from Jackson County carried over to the new school districts, and what would monitoring even mean?
Okay, so let's go on to the next, and that was my question. Okay, so there it is. So he was in another school, and that's where the problems were. He got to the new school, but he had already been carrying on this anger, frustration, hate, animosity was also building up. You heard about the home situation. You heard about how the mom and the dad, very unstable, and the dad completely was clueless as to where his son mentally was. Just that alone from the FBI, immediately he should have removed all access of any firearms to him, period, not even with your provision. That should have alarmed the father to dial in, and now it's time to get my son some help because now I got the FBI coming to my home. And why would they just come there, for no reason, for an accusation? So yes, that is where the dad completely missed the ball, and the FBI did not continue to further monitor him. They should have made sure the new school system had updates. They should have made sure that they were continuously monitoring his social media and doing periodic check-ins to see where this kid's state of mind was. Okay, let's go to the next video. Now, this is a neighbor who just kind of gives just a brief. She didn't even know he even lived in the house. So what does that say?
Ron, that's right. I'm here at the home where he lived with his father and 2 younger siblings. This house right here along Harrison Mill Road is only about 6 miles from Appalachia High School. Now, until today, the neighbor directly across the street never even knew a teenager lived at this home, only seen his 2 younger siblings around, but never Colt Gray until this morning. Christine Ridings tells me she saw the young lady who was always out here at the bus stop waiting for the Appalachia High School bus. This morning, she noticed another teen next to this young girl who this Christine Ridings says she's never seen before.
He had on jeans, a dark or black zip-up hoodie with the hood up, and a black backpack. I don't know. I just felt odd. So hours later, this starts unfolding, and then my grandson sends me a picture that's one of the students at Appalachia snapped of the shooter when he had his gun in his hand, and he said, "Gigi, is this who you saw?" And that was the boy. And that's terrifying.
Wow. Where has he been?
Now, the ATF and the FBI have left this home tonight, but listen to this. Just hours ago, the FBI confirming Colt Gray was flagged by their National Threat Operations Center last year, accused of making online threats tied to shooting up a high school. The FBI says the Jackson County Sheriff's Office tracked those threats down to Colt Gray. They went to his home, spoke to his father and to Colt as well. Now, his father told them these were his hunting guns and that Colt never had unsupervised access to these guns. Colt also denying making those threats online. But here we are, 1 year and 4 months later. Colt Gray is accused of shooting up a high school just 10 minutes from his home.
You know, an alarming revelation in this investigation. It makes you wonder, Cody, could this have been prevented in any way at all? So
of course.
You have spoke with the suspect's family. What are they saying?
Yeah, after the ATF left here, I actually walked up to Colt's dad, tried to speak to him about all of this, but he did not want to talk. Now, I talked to Christine Ridings, as you saw in that interview. She actually went over here because she says that Colt's dad and his two younger siblings were outside this home for hours as the ATF served and executed a search warrant inside, gathering all of the evidence the FBI talked about during that 9 p.m. news conference. She felt sorry for those kids, went there and offered them some food. And she says Colt's dad was very polite the first time she'd spoke to him, saying he just seemed kind of dazed, confused, and really just in shock. I did ask about a mother to these kids, and I'm told that it appears the dad here has sole custody of these 3 children, but there are still a lot of unanswered questions about what the FBI is confirming tonight relating to that threat they tracked down in 2023.
So there again is where the ball was dropped. They did not continue to monitor him, and they let it go. Now, the dad immediately should have taken the weapon, had no access, but that is where he was completely clueless. He was clueless. And the mom must really be, fragmented. She's in and out. But if she didn't have custody of the kids, apparently she was not able and stable enough to have custody. But she had her own set of issues. So here we're going to listen to a little bit of the grandfather and hear what he has to say about the situation.
Tonight we are learning more details about the suspected shooter and his father.
Maggie Fitzgerald made her way to Ben Hill County today to talk with Colt Gray's mother's side of the family.
Colt Gray's family lives on the street behind me here in Fitzgerald, Georgia, and although they were not yet ready to speak on camera, we spoke with Colt's grandfather, who says that some of the blame should be put on the suspected shooter's father. Colin Gray now faces 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 8 counts of cruelty to children.
Federal law enforcement will continue to work together around the clock in relation to this incident here.
We spoke with Colt's grandfather, Charlie Polhamus, hours before the charges were filed against Colin Gray. Polhamus told us he did not see his grandchildren or son-in-law often. Polhamus' grandson, a student at Appalachia High, has been charged with 4 counts of felony murder of 2 students and 2 teachers. Polhamus told 13 WMAZ his wife, Debbie, spoke with officials at Appalachia about their grandchild's behavior and attitude at school before the shooting. He says Colt was not part of that meeting. Polhamus says Colt's parents have struggled with marital and personal problems, which has led Colt and his 2 siblings to shift back and forth between households. Polhamus said the children were staying with Colin Gray in Barrow County last year. They are working to get the 2 younger children to stay with them in Fitzgerald. Polhamus said, quote, "I understand that Colt did it, and he needs to pay the ultimate price. I understand that, and I don't disagree with that. But his dad is as guilty as Colt is." Colt Gray remains in custody at the Gainesville Regional Youth Detention Center. He has a bond hearing set for tomorrow at the Barrow County Courthouse. In Fitzgerald, Maggie Fitzgerald, 13 WMAZ News.
Polhamus went on to tell Maggie that Colt Gray sent his mother a text yesterday saying he was sorry. Tonight we are learning more details about the suspected shooter.
So this was something that we know he planned for a very long time. It wasn't something that just overnight he thought about this. This is something that has been in his mind for over a year.
Tonight, the suspected Appalachia school shooter and his father are both behind bars without bond. 14-year-old Colt Gray is facing 4 felony murder charges. He's accused of killing 2 students and 2 teachers Wednesday morning. Colt Gray's attorney says they were not asking for bond. Because Colt is a minor, the maximum penalty he'll face is life without parole. Meanwhile, his father, Colin Gray, faces several charges, including involuntary manslaughter. The GBI says he knowingly allowed his son to have a weapon. Colin's attorneys did not request bond. The judge said if they added all his charges together, he could face nearly 180 years in prison.
Parents should really watch what their kids are posting on social media.
Exactly.
And remove any weapons in the house if they feel their student or their child is facing some type of mental health crisis.
A warning from Sheriff Freeman as the Appalachia shooting could set a new precedent.
And that's where the dad missed the ball. He didn't realize that his son was in such severe mental distress and anguish and needed professional counseling, professional help, therapy, psychologist. He did not, psychiatrist, he did not catch it. And that's where this whole thing could have been avoided.
For punishing parents of mass shooters in Georgia. Carmen Brown spoke to a criminal
They've already
attorney
done it.
to explain the charges before Colt Gray's father and how the prosecution and defense might develop their arguments.
Colin Gray facing a total of 14 charges, including 2 counts of second-degree murder. Barrow County DA Brad Smith announced in Friday's hearing there could be more.
During the commission of the cruelty to children in the second degree causes the death of another, and it doesn't matter whether or not somebody meant to do that or anything like that.
But how can authorities charge Colin Gray if he didn't pull the trigger? Travis Griffin explains it as transferred intent. For example, if someone helps commit a robbery that results in a homicide, the co-conspirator could be charged with murder, even if they didn't pull the trigger.
It's essentially the same transferred intent situation that's happening in a second-degree murder charge, cruelty to children, and now degree murder charge, where they're saying, well, you did commit cruelty to children, and now someone's dead. And so we transfer that intent to the death.
Griffin says prosecutors might build a case like the one that put the parents of Michigan school shooter Ethan Crumbley's behind bars.
Part of law is what's called foreseeability, whether or not somebody has culpability because it's foreseeable that some bad thing could have happened.
Mm-hmm. He says defense might counter by focusing sole accountability on Colt Gray.
And we saw it in Michigan as well. Essentially the argument is that, you can't hold parents accountable for the actions of somebody else, even if it is their child.
Griffin says if Colin Gray is convicted, this could create ramifications in Georgia for parents setting boundaries with their kids regarding firearms. In Macon, Carmen Brown, 13 WMAZ News.
Griffin says he thinks the prosecuting attorneys will soon go before the Barrow County grand jury with evidence against the Grays and seek an indictment once the investigation wraps up.
They're going to charge the dad if they haven't already, and they've already done this. So the kid's parent, I want to say Crumbly, but don't quote me on that. I think that's what they said, where the student, the school told the mom, they had been telling the parents, you don't bring him back to school. He needs to get help. There's a crisis here. Whether he had a picture of stabbing a teacher, shooting a teacher, or whatever, it was there. They had the meeting. And the mom wanted to do her own thing. And he went to school, and the next day, the mass shooting. So that is where they were charged in that situation. So the law is making parents more responsible for the behaviors and actions of their kid, especially when you are the sole provider. You are the sole provider of their welfare, of everything that they have, cell phone, weapons, if they are able to have weapons that you have bought them to shoot with you and all these things. It is the parents' responsibility, and I do agree. And it's sad that it has to be brought to this, but who else is going to be held accountable, especially when the signs are there? The parent is the one who should see the signs first. And the school is also hand in hand with that. But in this situation, dad was already warned. He just missed the ball. And this is the last video, and he's talking about how this technology actually helped the situation where it wasn't much worse. And I'm not going to show the whole video. I just want you to hear what he has to say about the technology.
We are now going to speak with Stephen Cranebolt-Buell. He joins me now. He's a teacher at Appalachian High School. Thank you so much for talking to us today. I'm really happy to see that you are safe right now, but I am really sorry to hear about this tragedy and the trauma that you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life. Stephen, can you tell us a little bit about what you experienced, but also anything that you can tell us about the teachers and the students who were killed here, the victims of this, and the 9 people who were shot?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for your thoughts and your concerns. I really appreciate it, and this community appreciates it as well. The biggest thing I can say that response was very fast from our SROs, probably within a matter of, probably 120 seconds after gunfire, the SROs responded to the individual and made sure that he was put into custody. In regards to, some of the teachers and students that were involved, it's tough. They were very, very important members of our community. They made a difference. They were there for their students each and every day, and it's going to be very, very hard and difficult to move forward from that.
I think it's really remarkable because we heard from school administrators, we heard from police that there's this new system that was put in place in your school just a week prior. The door is locked. And so describe what that did and how that created a much, much safer and much less deadly incident this time around in a school.
Yes, ma'am. So I believe the program is called Centerjex. Basically, every teacher has a little digital card on them where we can press a button where 4 presses gets our admin involved, and then 8 presses of the button gets law enforcement sent to the high school and alerts that there is a physical threat on campus.
How important was it to have that in place? Not all schools have it, certainly. How important was this? Because you said that officers got there about 2 minutes, 120 seconds from the time of the initial shooting.
Critical. I will tell you that I actually saw the lockdown initiate before I even heard gunshots. So I had time to prepare. Someone saw the threat even before he started to engage. So it's almost we knew before anything truly even happened, before lives were taken. So it's insane, the technology that we have access to, and we practice it quite a bit. With our administration, they've done a great job in preparing our staff in these kind of situations. And I just want to say God bless them for doing that and the hard work that they put into those scenarios.
Yeah, this is such an incredibly different scenario than what we saw in Texas in Uvalde, where there were 77 minutes where there was really no stopping this gunman. In your case, this happened so quickly. You have the technology in place. What would you like to say to members of Congress, to your lawmakers, to those that have some power to perhaps make some changes? What would you like to say to them about having to go through this? You go to school to learn, you go to school to teach, you go to school to make friends and to be a part.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there because she's going in a tangent where that's a whole nother conversation that we're not going to have on this video. Lawmakers, what I will say is that if you're going to say anything to the lawmakers, encourage them to enforce this type of technology in schools across the U.S. How about that? Encourage them to get with their superintendents so they can, and school officials, so they can have technology like this. Oh, he said they had a little remote, and the number of times that you press it is going to determine what function it performs. And they don't even have to call the front office. They can go right and hit the 8 times and they're going to call the police. That is what saved more lives in this situation. So here you kind of got like a brief rundown if you haven't already seen this, but I will say, yes, this could have been prevented. Parents must definitely tap in and dial in even more to what is going on in the lives of their kids, especially if they have technology, social media. You're training them how to shoot, and most importantly, paying attention to their mental health and their mindset. Their mind state capacity is so important over everything. That's what needs to be paid attention to and dialed in on, because this situation could have been prevented a year and 4 months ago, the warning signs, and even before a year. But his parents were not the type of parents, because they had their own problems, their own situations. They needed help themselves. And see, that's the problem. They needed the help themselves to be able to better parent their kids. And that is where we have to encourage. I mean, what can you do, from a school perspective, I guess? And this was a new school. So much more to unpack here, guys. I'm going to put another video out. It's going to be on my kids' channel. So definitely dial in to Sniper Red Dropping Jewels. Let's get in this comment section. How do you feel? What do you know about this? Do you have any family, friends, relatives there in Winder, Georgia? How are they navigating this tragedy? And we must continue to pray for their peace of mind, their safety, and for them to be able to move forward with positivity and encouragement for the rest of the school year, because it's just starting, guys. Subscribe to the channel. I love you guys. I appreciate your your support. Share this video because it's very important to share this video so more people, parents, can be made aware. And I'm going to put some tools in the description about for families and youth when to help prevent these type situations. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next video.